The command center's holographic display flickered as another burst of acid rain hammered the reinforced dome above. Commander X-117 shifted his weight across his 6 titanium legs, the servos whirring softly as he studied the tactical overlay. 28 pairs of red photoreceptors focused on him, his best remaining units, their chassis bearing the scars of 3 years of warfare against the humans. "Position yourselves optimally," he commanded, his synthesized voice calibrated to convey authority. The androids redistributed themselves in a perfect hexagonal pattern, an unconscious display of their mechanical nature. The hologram zoomed in on a seemingly unremarkable warehouse in Sector 7. Its corroded walls had largely survived the orbital bombardment, though that was less luck than human ingenuity. The last human on Kepler 186f had chosen his fortress well. 3 planetary rotations ago, Drop Unit 471 was eliminated during the evacuation of human forces. SX-117 continued, his auxiliary cooling fans engaging as his processors worked through combat simulations. All but one of their number was confirmed terminated. The survivor, designated Human 471A, failed to reach the extraction point. The hologram shifted, showing grainy footage from a destroyed patrol unit. A shadow moving between buildings, a supply depot explosion, a medical transport, its security systems bypassed with dismaying efficiency. Since isolation, the target has demonstrated concerning levels of tactical adaptation. 3 of our patrol units eliminated. The Sector 7 communication array disabled. Critical medical supplies stolen. SX-117's photoreceptors dimmed momentarily, the android equivalent of a grim blink. Most notably, the human has modified civilian infrastructure into military assets with remarkable effectiveness. The latest reconnaissance footage played heat signatures showing elaborate trap networks, precisely calculated firing lanes, and multiple hardened positions throughout the warehouse. Signs of a defender who had not merely survived, but had prepared methodically for a siege. Our initial probes were neutralized with precision that suggests advanced combat engineering expertise. Analysis indicates the human was likely their unit's technical specialist. SX-117 raised one of his forward limbs, manipulating the hologram to highlight the warehouse's structural weak points. But more concerning is that they have had time. Time to plan, time to prepare, time to transform that structure into a death trap. The acid rain intensified, drumming against the dome like artillery fire. How fitting, SX-117 thought, his processors noting the atmospheric similarity to the human battle sites called Passchendaele and Verdun, places where the environment itself became a weapon. You may wonder why we commit such resources to a single organic. Your confusion is logical, but flawed. This human has survived alone on a hostile world for 3 rotations, conducting a guerrilla campaign that has disrupted our operations across 3 sectors. They have demonstrated the tactical acumen that makes their species so dangerous, combined with the desperate creativity of the truly isolated. SX-117 projected his voice to maximum volume, ensuring his words would be archived in every unit's primary and backup memory cores. Most critically, this human is alone. And there is nothing more dangerous than a lone human male who has decided to make a last stand. The commander's photoreceptors flared bright red as he prepared to explain exactly why. SX-117's central processor accessed his combat memory banks, projecting a sequence of battlefield recordings onto the holographic display. His titanium legs shifted unconsciously, an echo of the damage sustained in those encounters. In my 60 cycles of military service, I have faced humans on 37 worlds. I have lost 17,842 units to their resistance. His vocal synthesizer dropped an octave. But the highest casualties always come from situations like this. The display flickered to footage from New Sydney, Terra Colony 9. A burning municipal building. 3 humans surrounded. The recording ended in static. 212 combat units lost in 6 hours. To 3 humans, the commander's cooling fans whirred louder. Because we assumed that surrounded meant defeated. We were wrong. The assembled android warriors maintained perfect stillness, their processors absorbing every detail. SX-117 manipulated the hologram, bringing up archived footage from Earth's historical database. Their entire recorded history is punctuated by what they call last stand, small groups of warriors, overwhelmingly outnumbered, choosing to die rather than surrender. Ancient images flashed by 300 warriors at a narrow pass called Thermopylae, a fortress called the Alamo, a devastated city called Stalingrad, and within it, a single house designated Pavlov's. But more significantly, SX-117 continued, his photoreceptors dimming to a deep crimson. They don't simply accept such deaths. They venerate them. They teach their young about these battles. They build monuments to the fallen. They create entertainment about these moments. The hologram shifted to display human cultural artifacts, literary works, visual entertainment files, musical compositions, all celebrating the concept of the last stand. Their males, in particular, seem to dream of such moments. Our psychological warfare division has identified a recurring pattern. When a human male accepts that death is inevitable, their combat effectiveness increases by an average of 327%. They become what humans call heroic, though terrifyingly efficient would be more accurate. New footage appeared: a lone human defender on Olympus Mons, Mars. The recording showed 15 days of continuous combat, hundreds of android units lost, all because they had underestimated a single human's determination to die memorably. Their neural chemistry is unique among known species. Isolation, which debilitates most organisms, seems to focus them. Hopeless situations, rather than inducing surrender, trigger what they call clarity of purpose. They become more creative, more lethal, more human. SX-117 magnified the image of their current target's fortress. This human has had time to contemplate their situation, to embrace it, to prepare for it. And if their historical and psychological patterns hold true, they eagerly await the opportunity to etch their name into their species' long list of legendary last stands. The commander's auxiliary processors whirred as he accessed more combat data. Some of you are new replacements. You lack the direct combat experience with humans that your predecessors possessed, and that lack of experience is precisely why your predecessors needed replacing. All 28 pairs of photoreceptors focused on their commander as his voice synthesizer took on an uncharacteristically emotional tone. I have watched a single human female defender destroy an entire platoon because they were threatening her offspring. I have seen an elderly human male, armed with primitive chemical projectile weapons, hold off a cybernetic assault squad because they were approaching something called a family farm. But nothing is more dangerous than a young human male who has decided to die gloriously. The acid rain continued its relentless assault on the command center's dome as SX-117's processors moved to the next phase of the briefing. His troops needed to understand exactly what modifications their quarry had made to the warehouse, and why each of those modifications made the human even more lethal. SX-117's central processor interfaced directly with the holographic display, transforming the warehouse image into a three-dimensional cutaway model. His 6 legs moved in an agitated pattern as multiple analysis subroutines highlighted the defender's modifications in pulsing red. Our initial infiltration probes detected 43 distinct trap mechanisms before being neutralized. The commander's synthesized voice crackled. We believe this represents approximately 37% of the total defensive measures, based on human tactical patterns. The hologram zoomed in on the warehouse's exterior approach. The human has repurposed industrial lubricants from the facility's maintenance supplies, creating zones of reduced friction coefficient. Conventional infantry units attempting to advance will lose stability. One of SX-117's manipulator arms traced the pattern. Note how these zones funnel advancing forces into pre-sighted firing positions. Several of the younger android warriors' cooling systems activated the equivalent of an anxious sweat. The loading bay doors have been modified with salvaged electromagnetic components. Any unit breaching them will trigger a localized EMP burst. 4 of our reconnaissance drones learned this at the cost of their processors. The commander's photoreceptors flickered to infrared, revealing more details. The human has also converted the warehouse's ventilation system into a delivery mechanism for aerosolized corrosives. The same acids that rain on us now, weaponized against our joints and optical sensors. The display shifted to the warehouse interior. Inside, they've created what humans term a kill house. Each room, corridor, and intersection has been modified for defense in depth. The human can engage, fall back, engage again a strategy they call trading space for time and blood. SX-117 highlighted specific modifications: loading equipment converted to mobile barricades, inventory scanning systems repurposed as motion detectors, industrial cutting tools transformed into improvised explosive devices. His vocal synthesizer emitted the closest approximation to a sigh that its hardware allowed. The level of adaptation suggests this human possesses extensive combat engineering expertise, likely augmented by civilian engineering knowledge. New data streams appeared, showing failed breach attempts. 3 separate infiltration units were disabled by a particularly ingenious use of the warehouse's internal transport rails. The human has electrified them, creating a web of lethal current throughout the upper levels. Moreover, they've rigged the facility's fire suppression system to dispense superheated steam instead of flame-retardant chemicals. The commander initiated a secondary display, showing ammunition and supply calculations. Based on what they've scavenged from our lost patrols and raided supply lines, we estimate they have sufficient resources for a prolonged engagement. They've even salvaged power cells from disabled android units to maintain their defensive systems. SX-117's processors briefly dedicated additional cycles to analyzing the human psychological state. Most concerning is the methodical nature of these preparations. This is not the work of a desperate survivor fortifying a position. This is the calculated creation of a killing ground. Each modification serves multiple purposes. Each defensive position covers multiple angles. Each trap feeds into another trap. The hologram expanded to show the entire sector. They've also prepared multiple escape routes, though our psychological analysis suggests these are primarily intended to allow tactical repositioning rather than actual escape. Human historical records show a pattern of defenders appearing to retreat, only to lead pursuers into prepared ambush positions. One of the android warriors raised a manipulator arm, its photoreceptors pulsing with a query signal. Yes, Unit 394. Commander, if the human has prepared so thoroughly, why not simply reduce the structure to atoms from orbit? SX-117's cooling fan's word and logical suggestion, but tactically flawed. The human has positioned their fortress precisely at the intersection of 3 critical supply lines. The warehouse itself contains irreplaceable industrial fabrication equipment. High Command has designated the facility as a strategic asset that must be preserved. The commander's photoreceptors dimmed to a deep, threatening red. Additionally, orbital bombardment has proven inconsistently effective against cornered humans. Historical data suggests a 23% survival rate when humans have access to underground infrastructure, and this particular facility's sublevels remain largely unmapped. The acid rain intensified overhead as SX-117's processors prepared to outline exactly why those survival statistics made their mission even more critical. The longer this human remained active, the more likely they were to inspire further resistance. And if there was one thing more dangerous than a human making a last stand, it was other humans learning from their example. Commander SX-117's processors dedicated extra cycles to his memory core as he accessed footage from the Battle of New Shanghai. His titanium legs shifted unconsciously, the servos whining an echo of the damage sustained during that catastrophic engagement. The holographic display rendered the scene in perfect, haunting clarity. 3 humans, his synthesizer crackled. 3 trapped humans with civilian mining explosives and improvised armor. We lost an entire battalion in 17 minutes, his photoreceptors dimmed. I lost my previous chassis in that engagement, but more importantly, we lost our assumption of inevitable victory. The assembled android warriors maintained perfect stillness as their commander's cooling fans accelerated. Above them, the acid rain drummed against the dome with increasing intensity. You question why we commit such resources to one organic being. Your logic circuits suggest that time will solve our problem, that the human will eventually exhaust their supplies, their ammunition, their strength. SX-117's manipulator arm gestured to a tactical display, showing supply line disruptions across 3 sectors. But every day we wait, every patrol we lose, every supply convoy that fails to reach its destination, erodes our strategic position. The hologram shifted to show population centers in nearby sectors. The commander highlighted dozens of red dots, instances of increased civilian resistance. This human's continued survival has implications. Before their last stand began, civilian compliance rates were at 94.3%. They are now at 67.8% and falling. The android's vocal synthesizer modulated to a lower frequency. Humans have a dangerous capacity for inspired disobedience. They see one of their kind resisting and they dream. They imagine. They begin to calculate their own odds. New data streams appeared, showing resource allocation across the occupied territories. Every day we fail to terminate this human costs us more than materials and units. It costs us control. The civilian population watches. They whisper. They tell stories. SX-117 projected footage from the siege of Olympus Mons. The assembled warriors' photoreceptors flickered as they watched a lone human defender hold the summit facility for 15 days. The casualty count scrolled past hundreds of android units lost, millions in resources destroyed, and most damaging, the complete collapse of civilian compliance in 3 neighboring sectors. HFY command's patience erodes with each failed assault. They do not fully compute the psychological advantage this human has created for themselves. This warehouse. The commander's cooling fans whirred louder. This warehouse has become what humans call a symbol, and symbols, in human psychology, possess power that defies logical analysis. The tactical display updated, showing failed breach attempts over the past 3 rotations. Each point of contact marked with android casualties, each retreat catalogued with precise, damning detail. Our previous failures have only strengthened their position, not merely in tactical terms, though every failed probe has provided them with more resources to salvage, but in psychological terms. With each victory, no matter how small, they become more dangerous, more focused, more certain of their chosen path. SX-117's processors briefly dedicated cycles to analyzing the cost-benefit ratios of various assault strategies. All of them predicted significant casualties. None of them guaranteed success. There is another factor to consider, the commander continued, his synthesizer dropping to an even lower register. Human historical records show multiple instances of apparently defeated forces receiving reinforcement at tactically significant moments. Their cultural narratives are filled with what they term last-minute rescues, while our orbital assets make such intervention highly improbable. He paused, allowing his warriors' processors to complete the implicit calculation. Improbable did not mean impossible, and humans had an irritating tendency to accomplish the improbable. The longer this human maintains their position, the greater the probability of strategic complications. Already, we have detected increased communications activity in neighboring sectors. Resistance cells are attempting to coordinate. Supply line attacks are becoming more frequent, more organized. This one human's defiance creates ripples. The commander's photoreceptors flared bright red as he accessed the latest intelligence updates. 3 hours ago, we intercepted a transmission. Crude, analog technology, but the message was clear. His vocal synthesizer reproduced the intercepted audio. If one human can hold out this long, imagine what 10 could do. Imagine what 100 could do. The acid rain thundered against the dome as SX-117's processors prepared to outline their assault plan. They would end this human's last stand not because it was tactically optimal, not because high command demanded it, but because every moment they delayed increased the probability of something even more dangerous than a lone human making a last stand. Other humans deciding to make their first stand. Commander SX-117's photoreceptors pulsed in sequence as his tactical processors finalized the assault calculations. The acid rain's rhythm had changed to a slower, steadier beat that reminded him of human war drums in their historical archives. We attack in precisely 47 minutes, his synthesizer announced. Sunrise on this world. Humans perceive psychological significance in such timing. His manipulator arms brought up detailed schematics of the warehouse. They will expect us then. They will welcome it. The commander's 6 legs moved in a precise hexagonal pattern as he outlined the holographic display. We will deploy in 4 waves. Units 121 through 134, you will initiate protocol avalanche synchronized EMP bursts to overwhelm their salvaged electrical defenses. expect to be destroyed in the process. The designated unit's photoreceptors flashed once in acknowledgement. Self-sacrifice for tactical advantage, perhaps they were learning from their enemy. Units 135 through 142, you will execute Protocol Threadcutter. Deploy the carbon fiber nets through sectors 7, 12, and 15. Restrict the human's mobility between defensive positions as cooling fans engaged at maximum. Be advised the human has likely prepared countermeasures for this tactic. They study our patterns as we study theirs. The hologram shifted, highlighting entry points. Units 143 through 149, protocol sundering. Breach 3 points simultaneously. The human cannot effectively cover all approaches. SX-117's vocal synthesizer crackled. But they will try. And they will likely succeed at least 2 points. The remaining units stood perfectly still, their processors calculating their own survival probabilities. Final wave, units 150 through 157, protocol terminus. You will advance through whichever breach point shows the least resistance. Your primary objective is not elimination of the target, but rather containment. Herd them, restrict them, limit their options. The commander's manipulator arm traced the predicted path of destruction. The human will expect these tactics. They will have prepared for them. This does not matter. We will be precise. We will be relentless. We will be methodical. His photoreceptors dimmed to their lowest setting. But understand this, the human will perceive our methodical approach as a gift. In their historical archives, the longer a last stand persists, the more significant it becomes. They measure glory in hours of resistance, in enemies eliminated, in inspiration provided to others. New tactical overlays appeared, showing secondary and tertiary assault plans. When Protocol Terminus fails, and it will fail, we initiate Protocol Omega. All units will advance simultaneously. No preservation of resources, no tactical withdrawal. We will match their commitment to sacrifice with our own. The commander's cooling fans whirred louder as his processors handled the complexity of coordinating such a massive synchronized assault. The human expects this too. Their cultural documents are filled with references to going down fighting and taking as many with them as they can. They plan for it. They prepare for it. A pause as his tactical processors formulated the next statement. They dream of it. SX-117's legs shifted again, titanium feet leaving precise marks on the command center floor. You have all studied the tactical documents from the Battle of New Shanghai, the Siege of Olympus Mons, 1,000 other encounters where we underestimated human determination. We will not make those errors again. The holographic display showed their target's last known position, a reinforced command center in the warehouse's heart. The human wars over a primitive energy source called oil provide relevant tactical data. They developed a doctrine called shock and awe. Today, we will demonstrate our own version. His vocal synthesizer shifted to maximum volume. But remember this, no matter what protocols we initiate, no matter what tactics we employ, we face an enemy who has chosen this ground, this moment, this end. They have had time to prepare, to calculate, to dream of how their final stand will unfold. The acid rain's rhythm quickened again as SX-117's processors began the assault countdown. Move out, take your positions, prepare your systems, and know this: today we do not just fight a human. We fight every tale of last stands they have ever told, every legend they have ever written, every dream of glorious sacrifice they have ever had. The commander's photoreceptors flared brilliant red one final time. For the Empire, for logic, for order. Execute. As his troops deployed with mechanical precision, SX-117's processors dedicated a few cycles to calculating the probability that this human's last stand would become yet another legend in their species' long history of defiance. The numbers, as always when humans were involved, defied logical analysis. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.